Hello, and welcome to our group's presentation about the most quintessential fast food chain, McDonald's. The aim of this presentation is to address prominent marketing problems surrounding McDonald's, and will also provide recommendations that can be implemented to overcome such barriers, thus grabbing the attention of our consumers.
Fast food restaurants are becoming more similar in an attempt to appear high-end and sophisticated in its appeal to suit a modern era. Such attempts can be seen by utilizing color schemes that become too monochromatic and rebranding McDonald's to emulate a higher-end restaurant by incorporating the color black amongst the fast food color palette. This tactic is resulting in a lack of differentiation from competitors, thereby becoming homogeneous. Consequently, McDonald's is becoming duller in their branding and ultimately lacking the nostalgia and emotional value due to the lack of incorporation of vivid colors and removing playgrounds and eccentric characters in their company image.
As a result, McDonald's conformist shift in rebranding has led to a lack of differentiation and what can be categorized as a loss of nostalgic identity within the subconscious of the average Australian consumer. Consumers had previously enjoyed the joyful and exuberant nature of McDonald's through the physical features of playgrounds, eccentric characters, and vivid color combinations of McDonald's restaurants due to the nostalgia it brings. This deep-rooted associated relationship between McDonald's and consumers in a child is becoming less apparent and no longer known as a safe haven for loyal consumers. Ultimately, McDonald's recent rebrandings and integration of the color black risks severing the nostalgic brand loyalty for upcoming generations.
In order to create a grand differentiation from other competitors, McDonald's should limit the use of the monochromatic color palette and utilize its crimson red and vibrant yellow in a more prominent manner. This can be utilized to present many other icons in McDonald's stores such as playgrounds, key personas and such, which revert back to the prime era of McDonald's back in the 2000s, where color and the joyful atmosphere took precedence over satisfaction. Although it may appear quite broad, this can be implemented in multiple modes of communication, which we will delve into meticulous detail later on, such as reintroducing Ronald, the clown mascot, brightly lit playgrounds, and eye-catching furniture in numerous ads and events.
The main objective of the new McDonald's campaign is to re-establish the atmosphere of familiarity, the once deemed safe and fun haven for children that peaked in the early 2000s. This will mean that the campaign aims to bring back the old concept that embodied the sense of childhood nostalgia and evokes sentimental feelings of endless exhilaration.
The campaign of bringing back the 2000s vibe of McDonald's will be comprised of two target markets. 1. The primary target market aimed at children who only know of the modern-day McDonald's. Re-establishing the friendly atmosphere rebrands their perception of McDonald's, and this also overrides the modern yet dull look that McDonald's currently portray.
The secondary target market is aimed at adults who uphold an attached memory of going to McDonald's as a kid and remembers McDonald's in their prime era, heavily saturated with colors and an intense atmosphere. Ultimately, in a holistic sense, the campaign is aimed at families comprising of both children and adults.
The key message and idea of the marketing campaign is to highlight the importance of reverting to an original identity that is often linked to McDonald's. When consumers link their childhood to the infamous fast food chain, it stimulates a certain memory of how McDonald's was. The memories that are embedded in our minds is what we as consumers can relate to through targeting families, parties, and the sense of unity and connection.
By re-establishing the idea of the iconic phrases of McDonald's, we were able to reconnect the true identity of the business. As previously mentioned, the re-establishment of McDonald's iconic phrase, filled with the flamboyant features that were once incorporated in their marketing, can grasp the attention of both primary and secondary target markets, consisting of families. This means that through implementing the original features of what consumers are familiar with, it can spark a comfortable feeling of home and unity.
As mentioned earlier, the primary target market is the current generation of children who have only yet experienced the modern McDonald's experience. An experience which is frankly forgettable due to no standout characteristics within the McDonald's environment has potential to form a subconscious bond between the consumer and the company. The behavioral change intended by our campaign is to reinstate a sense of connection and loyalty between the current generation and the lost identity of McDonald's through the original eccentric characters and vibrant colors. Through this process, we intend to unlock the nostalgia associated with the brand within our secondary target market, the past generation of children, now adults, who grew up around the original McDonald's characters.
In order to communicate and re-establish this grounded feeling of nostalgia and childhood familiarity, The best way to present this is through a classic TV advertisement. The advertisement will utilize previous advertising gimmicks, such as the iconic Macca's mascot, Ronald the Clown, and also the important color theory to reinforce the once highly saturated and vivid image portrayed by McDonald's brand perception. These features will be salient and once representative of McDonald's during the golden era in the late 1900s and early 2000s. A highly memorable feature was the iconic persona of McDonald's, Ronald the Clown, who appears in 1963 but was later removed in 2016.
The advertisement will depict Ronald driving a bright car around suburban neighborhoods, attracting a large crowd of young children and adults who notice the vibrant, richly colored demeanor surrounding Ronald's car. As the car drives past each once dull-colored houses, the streets then become engulfed in an intensely flamed atmosphere filled with elation and bright colors. In relation to the color theory, colors play a role in the emotional and rational perceptions of a brand. Through incorporating vivid colors within the advertisement, such as McDonald's iconic red and yellow, it can evoke a sense of elation and contentment. This can heighten the positive emotions experienced, hence be more inclined to purchase from McDonald's. As the ad continues, we want to establish and enhance memory. The classic jingle of McDonald's theme song will become apparent in the background, and the use of recirculation of the iconic McDonald's statement, "McLovin' It," will ensure that long-term memory is established.
Ultimately, Ronald and the many kids and adults following him will return back into McDonald's brick-and-mortar store, where an explosion of colors and visual overload will take place. The ad will also include Ronald sitting in his iconic bent chair, knees crossed and open arms in an inviting manner, which allows consumers to acknowledge and appeal towards the inclusive and childhood-like environment.
Physical features can also be brought back in stores to relive core childhood memories, such as bright playgrounds and sparkly furniture. These features will replace existing lackluster chairs, which although may provide a more modern feel, it lacks the excitement and enthusiasm.
McDonald's physical evidence of their restaurants are increasingly becoming more modernized and simpler, following the lack of incorporation of vivid colors and playful characters. McDonald's are steering away from the original fun, playful, and bright atmosphere in an attempt to be more high-end. The physical evidence plays a major role in consumers' behavior, as it can impact their mood and emotional connection that they have with the business. The nostalgic, playful experience consumers once correlated with McDonald's is increasingly lacking due to this shift into a more sophisticated atmosphere. This lack of nostalgia can reduce the positive emotions experienced when purchasing from McDonald's, hence can reduce the intrinsic motivation consumers have to consume McDonald's products. This nostalgia and brand loyalty will be reinforced through showing the McDonald's restaurants transform and incorporate more of their original style.